for the love of all things icebreakery, can we stop asking people what their favourite cereal is? Because here's the thing, most people don't care about trivia. They actually want to get to the heart of what makes the other person human. And a meaningful icebreaker question is a question that people actually want to answer and people want to hear the answer to. What your favourite cereal is probably not one of them. In this video, I share 5 meaningful icebreaker questions and I tell you why they work. Hi, I'm Kerry Price. I'm the founder of the Facilitators Network, and I use the principles of deliberate generosity to make sure no meeting or workshop is ever wasted. I've been facilitating for 20 odd years, and in that time I've facilitated thousands of meetings, workshops and community conversations, and now I help other trainers and facilitators do it well. Way back in the 1980s, somebody thought that an icebreaker would be a great way to warm up the group. And to be fair, the idea of icebreakers isn't bad, it's just that over the years they've got cringier and cringier, and somehow we've ended up asking people what their favourite pizza topping is. If you want your icebreaker questions to be meaningful, they need to actually connect people to each other and connect people to the purpose of the session. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 questions that do just that. They scratch below the surface, they get people connecting with each other, and you can use them to connect to the purpose of the session. Question 1. This is one of my favorites. In fact, I'm probably going to say that a few times in this video because all of these questions are my favorite. But this one is, if you could relive 1 year of your life, what year would it be and why? Now, why I love this question so much is that people's brains go in 2 completely different directions. Some people share a year of their life that was awesome and they want to relive it. Some people share a year of their life where things didn't really go to plan and they want to have a second go or a second bite of the apple. Both of those responses are equally valid, and it tells you a little bit about what brought that person to where they are right now. So for me, what's a year that I'd like to relive? I reckon it would be around about 1988. Teenage brain, making really bad decisions. I'd probably do that differently. Of course, you can tweak that question so it's more relevant to the meeting or workshop that you are leading. So let's say you are leading a monthly review. The question could be, which week of this month would you like to relive? Or which day of this month would you like to relive and why? So instead of making it a year, you can bring it into a month. If you're leading a year-end review, it might be, which month of this year would you like to relive and why? Different periods of time, different context, same kind of principle. Question 2. This question I was gifted by a friend, Manal Syed. She's an amazing facilitator in Canada. And this question really allows people to show up for all that they are and for all that they are not, even if they don't want to be in the room. This question is, what is the small part of you that doesn't want to be here? And it's so powerful because even if people are choosing to be in the room, they're excited to be there, they want to be taking part, there's often a small part of them that wants to be somewhere else. Oh, I'd really like to be at my daughter's athletics day today. It's the first race that I have missed. Oh, I really want to be here and I'm torn because I've got lots of things going on back at the office. By allowing people to share that small part of them that doesn't want to be there, you can connect on a human level and acknowledge that maybe this meeting or workshop is not the most important thing on their calendar. Seeing each other as human makes it much easier to go through the process. Question 3. What is something you care more about than most people realize? And what I love about this question is that you can tweak it for context. So if you're in a work situation, it's what's one thing you care about at work more than people realize? If it's a community meeting, what's one thing you care about in your community more than most people realize? What this does is get to the real heart of what's important to people. And when you know what's important to people, you can tailor the session around that. Of course, when you leave the question wide open, just what's one thing you care about more than most people realize, it leaves opportunity for people to be really human. So for me, I care more about accessible playgrounds than most people realize. I have a granddaughter with some pretty major disabilities, and being able to take her to the playground and actually play just like the other kids, super important to me. Question 4. I most often use this question when we're going into a session that might be challenging for some people and they might need to shift their ideas or beliefs around a particular topic. This question opens the door for that. And the question is, what is one thing that over time you changed your mind about? Now, when you ask that question, sometimes you get some surface level responses like, I changed my mind about Brussels sprouts. They're actually not that bad. Or I changed my mind about my favorite sports team. Like maybe they're not as good as I once thought they were. Sometimes I hear things like, I obviously changed my mind about my first husband, but that goes without saying. But the responses don't matter so much. What matters is that it opens people's idea or opens people's eyes to the fact that actually I can change my ideas, my beliefs around things, and that's not a weakness or a failure, that's a sign of growth. So maybe as we go into this workshop and I'm being challenged by things, maybe being open to changing my mind about that is not such a bad thing. Question 5 is, what is one thing that you're learning to do differently right now? And you might want to add in, what is one thing outside of work that you're learning to do differently right now? For me, I'm learning to do YouTube videos differently. And it feels hard and it feels clunky and it feels uncomfortable. But by drawing people's attention to the fact that they can learn other things outside of work and make it through, it means that this training session, they can make it through too. And it might feel clunky and it might feel uncomfortable, but there will be rewards at the end. Of course, all of these questions only work if you set it up in a way where there is contribution and engagement quickly. So please don't do round the room. Please don't start with a question and have the person on the left start and slowly go around waiting 20 minutes for the last person to actually have their say. Because let's face it, they are so busy thinking about their response, they're not listening to what anyone else is saying anyway. Instead, get people into pairs, sharing their responses, maybe even groups of 3 or 4, and then you can popcorn the responses back into the room. Of course, questions are only one way to break the ice. There are other ways that you can warm people up and get people connecting in the room too. So if you want to move on a little bit from questions, but without going cringy, check out my next video, Meaningful Icebreaker Activities. In that video, I share 4 activities that help build connection using people's phones. The link is in the description below. Go check it out.